Let me see if I can get it up here. No?
Maybe.
Close enough. You look a lot like Dan Stork.
That's bad.
That's right.
I guarantee that's bad.
You don't want any of that.
Nope. Nope.
All right, so we'll get started. We have a couple more people that are joining, but welcome everybody. Thanks so much for popping in. Kathy and I were just talking about this. We talked about this a couple weeks ago when we were brainstorming some ideas, but thanks everybody for joining. Goal here is really just to throw some ideas together about what might be valuable for both new neighbors as well as existing neighbors. You know, there's a lot of cool stuff going on in the community to connect people. I did a great Nextdoor post today asking people for advice on how to make a good cup of coffee, and I've gotten like 20 responses. So I love that kind of stuff. I love the crowdsourcing element of that. You know, I think we can come up with lots of things that we think new neighbors should know about. But one of the questions that I think I'll be keeping an ear out for is whatever we come up with, how to get that out, obviously in front of people, right? That's one of the big challenges for anybody who's doing events, anybody who's doing activities. How do you get people to know about it? So, you know, as you're talking with each other, I think we'll break into small groups and just share ideas. But as we talk to each other, just be thinking about who are the people who have a reach, right? Who, whether it's because they're the Hunan Manor or the variety store or the hardware store, where people come in and out of those places, where we could put something physical maybe there that people could pick up as well, like we were talking about a postcard or something like that. So let's just do quick round of introductions, and then we'll share a few ideas, and then we'll break into small groups. Kathy, would you start us off? You are our first.
Sure. I'm Kathy Hosick, and I work part-time in Old Town, but my full-time job is building community. And when I saw Fraser's post, I was like, oh, this is totally me. As Dan knows, I've bothered him for many years in all his roles about, Dan, how can we make this happen? Mount Vernon is the jewel in the crown of Fairfax County. We need to get the word out about that. So I think, and I've noticed that not when you need something, but if you reach out to people that you already have a connection with, it's so much easier to get stuff done. So in light of even COVID happening, if you don't have connections with people like food banks, it's really hard to start from ground zero. So I'm here to figure out how we get businesses to talk to new residents, to get engaged, the people who already live here, connect faith group, everything Fraser said. That's kind of what I'm here for. So ready to share ideas.
Thanks, Kathy. Larry.
Hi, I'm Larry Newman, owner of Only Bathrooms, and I try to participate in about one of every 25 things Fraser invites me to, because he just goes about 1,000 miles an hour and I can't keep up. But I felt like this was a good one, and because I have been in the community for so long. Matter of fact, one of my current clients is on this call right now. We start a demo at Tracy's house in a couple of weeks. So this is where I live and work, and I feel like being a part of the community is important to me. And so I want to just, you know, be a part of that. So.
And just as a thought, I mean, Larry's an example of a small business that obviously can really benefit from being connected with neighbors and whatever. And there's, you know, loads of people like him and like us, and the realtors obviously are in that category too. And I really have always, for the past 3 years, really just been thinking about, you know, how can we marry those people, because those guys are thinking 24 hours a day about how to get in front of neighbors, right? And so we all have, I think, an important role to play in doing that, but the businesses have kind of a mercenary capitalist role to play in that, and that should be taken advantage of in a good way. Martha.
Yes, I'm Martha Deal.
Are you in a field somewhere?
Yes, I'm in the weeds. Yes.
Okay.
I could be on the Golden Gate Bridge if you prefer.
No.
I shrunk the kids.
Or in the galaxy. Anyway, I'm Martha Deal with Long and Foster Realtor. I've been with them about 16 years, but I have lived in the Fort Hunt area for more than 40 years. So I know it well. I've seen a lot of change, and I love this community, and I love finding out all I can about it and telling other people about it as well.
Perfect. Thanks, Martha. Jan?
You're welcome.
Yeah, hey everybody. It's been a little while since I've been on one of Fraser's events, but I'm Jan Buchanan and I'm the Executive Director of Mount Vernon at Home. We are a senior village that serves the Mount Vernon and South Alexandria area. And a village, if you guys don't know, helps seniors age in their own home. So it's a really cool concept. And we have been a very vibrant community of getting together socially and doing all kinds of things. That has been a big challenge. I came on board in April. I don't live in the area. I'm in Falls Church, and libraries where our office is in the Sherwood Library closed and now not really functioning as an office space. So my challenge has been to be able to serve my community and to be able to get to know the community at large, to get the word out about us. So the idea that Fraser has of connecting to the neighbors, the neighborhood, this is a real service. It's a membership-based organization, but we have sliding scale fees for people. We really want to be inclusive. And it's been unbelievably beneficial to our members and more during the crisis because we've connected through Zoom. God bless, these people are in their 70s and up in their 90s, and they're on Zoom. So when people complain about Zoom, I'm like, I got 90-year-olds on Zoom, so quit your complaining. And just finding community. So Kathy, I'll be really, really keen to talk to you a little bit about what you're doing. Getting the word out and getting into places. You can't take a brochure anywhere. You can't go see people and sit down with them. So that's a big challenge for me right now, of keeping the word out about our village. We also have, I wanted to say, because of Larry and his service and others, that we have built and have a wonderful provider directory. So I'm always really interested in my local businesses because my people live, 80% in homes, some in condos, and they all have these houses. So inside and out, we need good, competent service providers that I can refer to my peeps. So that's us. Thanks.
Thanks, Jan. Thank you. Tracy?
Hi, I'm Tracy Vitale, Coldwell Banker Realty. I've lived here quite a while now. I love the community, love the sense of community, everybody, kids in school, know Larry. We came here being in the military. Now we've stayed put, retired, and we're going to stay here for who knows how long. And I've always, since I've lived here and having so many military folks come to the area, I've really, just get to know them and help them find whatever they need. And that kind of goes into everything I do now with my job. But I just really love where we live, love the community, and love helping other people get used to everything.
Perfect. Thanks, Tracy. Margaret?
Yeah, I hope you can hear. Can you hear me?
We can hear you, yep.
Okay.
But we still can't see you.
No, my whole screen has grayed out. All I have is Martha on my screen.
All the important ones.
Turning. And, but everything's grayed out. So I don't know. I can see.
No worries. No worries,
okay.
Margaret.
Anyhow, yes. I'm Margaret Cagle with Long and Foster, and I live here in Holland Hall Village, and I've been very active in the community since we moved here. And we had actually talked about a welcome wagon with our neighborhood watch group that is active with our, there, the screen just came back. Now I've got color. Anyhow, we've talked about doing some kind of a welcome wagon thing here, just here in Holland Hall. But of course, we've never got around to doing it. So when I saw Fraser's email about it, I thought, wow, let's see what's going on.
Perfect. And Margaret also is active with the senior center, and then also the neighborhood night out, right, Margaret?
Yeah.
And so, those are, neighborhood night out obviously is kind of a neighborhood connecting activity with the Civic Association, and I guess we do it at the Mount Vernon Park.
Mm-hmm.
But then also the senior center always strikes me, and I think I mentioned this to you, Kathy. It's like I'm gearing up. I got one more year before I'm eligible for the senior center. I'm going to turn that place into my clubhouse in a little bit. We're going to get a pool table going, poker. We're going to be.
Well, they have pool tables.
There. Oh no, I've scouted it out, but I always do it on the sly. I've been scouting it out for 20 years, Margaret. Lisa, actually, Dan.
Hey,
Hey.
thanks, Fraser. Yep. This is something that I obviously feel very strongly about, is this kind of networking and connections. And this is the core of what we do really in our office, is to work with everybody to try to make sure that everybody knows what the opportunities are, what kind of going on in general in the Mount Vernon district. You all hopefully are on our newsletter and get that. It's probably the single most frequent and probably the broadest kind of information about what's happening in the community. And then specific to the Welcome Wagon point, I think a little over a year ago, we started we call really a booklet, which has basic information about Fairfax County, the government, the district, and kind of the different key telephone numbers and so forth that people need. We send that out for any new address. We get all the new addresses from the folks when they do the property tax changes. We get that information from them. And so we cover a lot of folks. We don't necessarily get all the renters because of the turnover with that, but we'd love to. But at this point, any new property change, ownership change, and any new business that comes in, we send this booklet to them, which gives them, frankly, really all the different key information, key numbers, and key ways of connecting not only with the government, but also the utilities and other kind of essential points of operating in the community. So, and we're always happy to add more. We have a newsletter that's geared towards, supporting not-for-profits and have a calendar that we list any kind of not-for-profit or any kind of event in the community. So let us know.
And I'm assuming everybody knows Dan Stork. Dan is the Mount Vernon supervisor. But for people who are watching this after the fact, Dan's the Mount Vernon supervisor, and their office is over on Parker's Lane by the the fire department and in the government center.
Library, the hospital, the police station.
Epicenter of all things. And Dan, for a while, you guys had a paper newsletter that went out. Do you guys still do that?
We've never formally sent out a paper newsletter. We've always sent out an electronic newsletter. We do print it for events. So like when people were voting at the satellite office, which is where our office is, we had printed a lot of copies that we kept out on the table. We also had the booklet and really all the kind of the key information about we thought people might want on what's happening in the district, what's happening in the county. Anything from properties and what how to research information to our staff.
We lost you, Dan. We lost your audio, Dan.
No.
Dan, can you hear me? We can't hear you anymore. All right, I'm going to segue from Dan then. Dan, we can't hear you. Maybe, I'm not sure what happened. Lisa, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, Fort Hunters and Fort Hunters at heart. Lisa Seward with TTR Sotheby's International Realty. I've been a citizen of Waynewood since 1992, so I am a big fan of the community. I'm a big fan of the nonprofits who support those in our greater community, and that to me is the most important part of my business, besides clients first, clients everything. But I feel that it is a joy and an obligation to give back to the nonprofits that support those in need in our community. Love Mount Vernon at Home, love United Community, and New Hope Housing, and all of those we are very engaged with. And we would love to figure out a way to be contributory for this welcome package. And Jan, hopefully you got a lot of calls already from our social media, because my director of operations put together a graphic because they needed some help with volunteers. Did you get a bunch of calls yesterday?
Not yesterday, but they're coming in. So it's great. I really appreciate that, Lisa.
Okay. So
Yeah.
we are always happy to support our nonprofits in any way that we can promotionally. We support them financially, and we do the best we can with time, which is a very limited resource for me right now. But at some point, when I'm working less, I do plan to put more time into supporting these local nonprofits that help our community. I lead a team of 5 agents. My primary focus is South Alexandria and City of Alexandria. So I know Fort Hunt very, very well, 22307 zip code, and of course the City of Alexandria. And there's other people on my team that have hyper-local specialties in all 3 state jurisdictions. But me personally, I am all about the Alexandria. And I don't know, I just love it here. So look for me on the path with my bad dog.
So thank you, Lisa. A couple things. One, just wanted to say something I remember from when Dan and I first met at our first Fort Hunt lunch. Dan was talking all about Fort Hunt. I remember we were talking about, like, listen, you don't put Alexandria as your mailing address. Put Fort Hunt, Virginia 22308, because that's the real name. And I think Dan, you were also working on something with regards to, like, all of the cultural elements that are here in our neighborhood, whether it's Mount Vernon, or I don't know if River Farm falls into that, or the Frank Lloyd Wright House, or whatever it is, but just this kind of like cultural tour. And I remember that might be a fun thing to include in the welcome wagon as well. And also want to say lots of love to our nonprofits and lots of love to our profits. Okay, because the profits are the ones who fund the nonprofits, and the profits are the ones that fund the schools, and the profits are the ones who are going to be able to get the word out. So I love the nonprofit love fest. We love Mount Vernon at home, and I love our profits out there too. I don't want them getting short shrift.
No, I totally agree with that. I think that, we're not, the nonprofits just aren't, we don't want to just be like, here, give us some money. I think that the partnerships with businesses are incredibly important. And, that's why I mentioned this provider directory, referrals that I can do. I want to know the businesses in this area so that I can help you to help my folks. So I totally agree.
Absolutely. I mean, it's not a either or, it's definitely a both and I think that's been kind of my focus, is just finding, because I always say this, it's like, if we can really find the way to connect these things, then everybody wins. The nonprofits have unlimited funds, the businesses have unlimited funds to give, and all of the neighbors have more opportunity. They have more services. I mean, we'd all love, it breaks our heart to see businesses. I mean, you remember down in Bellevue, they got hit by that fire and we lost the businesses. And then of course, COVID is wreaking havoc as well. And now everybody's home. And so there's also a lot of people who are amazing businesses, whether they're brick and mortar or whether they're just personal services, who I think everybody would benefit from meeting and connecting. And, my agents and Larry, you guys can, and I'm going to use the term feed. It's a kind of a negative term, but you guys can live and feed in this area, right? I mean, you can grow your businesses just by serving neighbors, and the neighbors benefit from that. And so I think that can be, that's a philosophy that I think we should amplify. Richard, you're muted, Richard.
Yeah, I see that. Thank you. Thank you, Frazier. Richard Hayden, I'm with MBH Settlement Group. I'm a real estate attorney. My primary office is in Kingstown. I'm also in DC. We have 20 offices around the area. And I know, obviously being in the real estate business, I know of Tracy and Lisa. And, and I live in the Fort Hunt area. I live in Riverside Gardens, right off of Fort Hunt Road. So, I'm very much in tune with the neighborhood and the community. And I think kind of key on what you were saying, Frazier, was we'd be willing to sponsor probably like a coupon for local businesses, which have been pretty much ravaged by COVID-19. That's something we've done in Kingstown here, is supporting the local businesses in the Kingstown area. So that's an important thing to keep them going, because, a closed business has no employees. and a business that doesn't open never hires anyone. So we need to make it palatable for them. So, I'd be willing to work on that end. I can also go the nonprofit route too. I'm involved with my church fraternal organization that operates a bingo on Route 1, and all our net proceeds go to charity. But we offer discount coupons for bingo if we wanted to go that way too. So I can probably go either way for that. But like I said, the for-profit businesses, the restaurants in particular, would be something to support these folks and get them out to see what local gems we have for restaurants and things locally to keep the money in the neighborhood.
So thank you everybody for introducing yourselves. Some of you guys already know each other, obviously. Just a couple of thoughts. I mean, I'd love to share ideas. I mean, fundamentally, I think we can take advantage of some of the things we already have, like with the Fort Hunt community site, and think about, what would be really beneficial. Some of what Dan's talking about in terms of, useful numbers and whatever. I'd really love to focus on the organizations and the businesses and the people. One of the things that some of you, we did this a couple of weeks ago where we just put out on Nextdoor, we said, share where you went to college, what you do for a living, and what your major was, to almost put together like a virtual career and college fair for the Sandburg and West Potomac. And we got 100 people who shared that information. And as people were sharing, it was great seeing people, oh, you went to, University of California, or, oh, you went to JMU or whatever, and seeing different career connections as well. And I think that a connected community is a stronger community. So I think that neighbors, organizations, and businesses, you take those three and you connect them in any and all ways is very powerful. And again, I'd love to share. I mean, I think just fundamentally in a traditional welcome, I've never gotten a welcome basket or a welcome wagon or anything like that, but I'm guessing it's some version of information like what Dan is talking about, some version of coupons or, promotional things for the businesses. Are there any other things that you guys think would be cool to add to a either physical or virtual basket? And then we can talk, just if there's any ideas that aren't in that category, share them. And then we can maybe just talk about, if we assume that we kind of know what would go onto the welcome wagon, then we can think about how to get it out to more people. So any ideas about things non-traditional or things that haven't already been mentioned that might go onto a welcome wagon?
Fraser, I'm sorry, who's getting the welcome wagon? It's new residents?
I mean, yeah, so my vision, would be that we would have something or some virtual thing that we would share with people who move to the area, and then also share with neighbors. I mean, fundamentally, you could be here for 10 years and not know about River Farm or not know about, Sherwood Gourmet, right? So it's fundamentally just a community in a box. But we would probably prioritize getting it in front of new neighbors through what Dan's talking about with like legal property changes, or our realtors who obviously are the people who bring new people into the area. So that's the kind of startup vision.
I think there has to be a cake in the box.
I'll leave it to you to bake it.
Well, I'm not necessarily ever going to bake a cake, but just that's the most universal welcome gift that exists to new residents, to new, a neighbor comes and gives them a bundt cake or, whatever it is. But, and so maybe if we don't give the cake, maybe the thing is in a cake box that we get from the pastry shop, or something like that.
And when you said that, Larry, I thought about the pastry shop. I mean, what we certainly could do is say, we get a gift certificate or something like that, and you go to the pastry shop and claim your welcome cake, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, so that way you're killing two birds.
But that's like a smile is universal. That's the universal welcome to our neighborhood. We're glad you're here.
Yeah. And I think that the idea, and I think Kathy, you were talking about this, if we sort of roll out this kind of block captain concept, then in theory we could say to somebody, hey, listen, you're gonna kind of put together the physical version of this, right? I mean, it's a variety of things. Many hands would make light work in that respect, right? So if somebody moved to, I'm on Jackson Road in Holland Hall. If somebody moves to Jackson Road, I can actually deliver the welcome. But we've had 5 or 6 new people here in the past 2 or 3 years. And, it's kind of been ad hoc in terms of, oh, we invite them to do something, but it's nothing where nobody's made our lives easier, right? Nobody's making your life easier to welcome those people. So other ideas? I like that idea though of the cake.
Well, I'll just add to that then, since you like it, because I like it when you like things that I say. Their pink box, right, is iconic, and everybody smiles when they see the pink box. So let's say you get 100 coupons, or you get 12 coupons, or you get 6 lists of phone numbers, but you put them all in the box, and on the top of the box there's a big sticker that says "Welcome to Fort Hunt from Fort Hunt" or something like that. So so that is the vehicle that we use to, not a plastic bag or, like a door hanger or something like that, but something that as soon as somebody sees it, they're going to be like, oh my gosh. And then like the top one is, a free cake. And I know that that's not easy for the pastry shop, so we could figure out a way to make sure that they get paid for the cake or whatever it is. But
maybe a cookie.
Well, and Larry, I mean, I don't think that the businesses have to do anything for free. I think there's enough support. I mean, I don't know what a cake is. Let's say a cake's $20. I mean, we can presumably come up with people who sponsor it so that the pastry shop makes the cake or delivers the cake, but it's paid for by other people. And, maybe it's a situation where, again, I'm just thinking about that concept of making it easier logistically. You say, listen, your welcome package is at the variety store. Your welcome package is at Holland Hall Pastry Shop. Go pick up your thing so that they get, I mean, these are guys it gives them an excuse to go somewhere that they haven't been before, or it can be delivered to them. I think the logistics will frankly be easy. I think that if we can figure out how to discover people and to identify people, then I think that there will be enough businesses that are eager to be introduced to new people that they would be happy to kick in $5, for that, to put something into that either put something into the box or to pay for the box, Any other, what about just virtually? Are there any other things that you wish or you think neighbors would really love to be introduced to within, a month of moving to Fort Hunt?
I would like to, go ahead.
No, you can.
Oh, okay. I would like to add, I like that we're putting actual things in the box, but if you don't then turn around and actually engage with people, we've kind of lost you. So is there some way we could do like a virtual event, like have a link and it says, here are our local events coming up, get out and meet your neighbors. That's the piece that I'm concerned with is They could meet the local businesses. That'd be great. But to actually have community events, like maybe once a year we do something at Fort Hunt Park in the big field. And now it would be tough with, COVID, but we could figure out something, or a scavenger hunt or some way to get them to go to all these businesses. And there's clues that they have to see in a window, like a Where's Waldo or something, like where's was a Fort Hunt thing. Fort Hunt symbol or the magnet or a sticker that you're talking about. Maybe that's hidden somewhere in the, the business, something like that to get people out, maybe say, hey, let's pit neighborhood against neighborhood. Collingwood Springs, you're against Waynewood. Let's go. Who can find the most clues, something like that, just to get people, because I do love welcoming people. That's a very important part. But then we have to make them feel welcome enough to engage. And that's going to be through personal connection.
No, I love that, Kathy. And I mean, the idea, I remember in Alexandria, they do a restaurant passport, where they get a passport thing and they punch it at the different places or get their sticker at the different places. I think something like that would be great. I think a scavenger hunt, with like the landmarks. I think about the cannon, the Fort Hunt Federal cannon that's over at Sandburg, or
box.
A box.
The
Wait,
fox,
what?
a Fort Hunt fox. I mean, the fox is,
Yeah, I thought you were hitting it. I thought you were just hitting that box again, Larry. It's like you had one good success.
No,
You're just going to hit that.
I got a second good. I got a second good idea. I'm just holding on to it for a second.
Okay, but like I agree, Kathy, completely, and I do think that like people come, I know, Nextdoor has, truthfully, you have a lot of information. Like when you register on Nextdoor, you get your picture and you put a lot of information, but people aren't, that I've seen, they're not really interacting with each other in a real way. So I love the idea of an event. I mean, truthfully, especially with Zoom, the idea of us doing a monthly welcome the neighbor Zoom happy hour. And then once we get off of COVID, going down to Revel or going down to Primo or going down to, what's it called? Cedar Knoll or something like that. And having that would be great. And I think that it makes it a lot easier to interact, to engage with people if you have met them, which is why I like the idea of a kind of a who's who, like who's in the neighborhood, whether they're businesses or organizations or just neighbors. I mean, just having a neighbor directory that you can opt into and you can say, listen, here's who I am and here are some of my interests, and have people connecting. Some people want to do that, some people don't, but for if you have something in common with somebody other than you live in the same neighborhood, then you have opportunities to connect,
So Fraser, something that Kathy brought up that got me thinking, I have a couple of friends that live in some pretty neat little parts of the neighborhood, and they have these great block parties. And I'm so jealous because they have these really cool block parties and they put up moon bounces and they get bands to play and they do it either at the holidays and it's like, it's almost an exclusive event. And if you don't live in their little block, you don't get to go. So what if we said, let's have a Fort Hunt block party?
Right.
And you get sponsors for that. And then, we do Fort Hunt and we get the pavilion and the 400 people and I know we can't do it right this second, but that's where you would get, and then you're inviting all the new people, you're inviting all the old people and it starts out small, but maybe it grows into something larger because we all want to be part of an exclusive, group. And so if we could say, come to the exclusive Fort Hunt community block party. And then, so that's something I think that, and if we could fund it and it happened twice a year, a spring and a fall or something like that, the Waynewood barbecue brings a lot of people together and they don't even do it on purpose, but it ends up happening and it's a great event. So,
and Larry, I love that. And I mean, I think the idea of doing a twice a year, big community activity would be fantastic. And I'll throw something else because you're talking about these block parties. One thing that we tried last year was this concept of saying, having a block. We did two things. One was a block luck dinner, right? Where you meet everybody on your block and you just do it, it's in people's houses or on people's front yards. But if we, and then the other concept was just like a neighbor barbecue where you just meet everybody on your street. But the idea of saying, of kind of declaring that that's something that we want more of, right? We say, listen, neighbors, block captains, civic associations, whatever, we want to have, it's kind of like the neighbor night out, except do it on your street, right? Do it in your community. And we just find a way to incentivize it, whether that, I mean, I know I went to 7-Eleven a couple years ago and they were like, yeah, we'll give stuff away. We'll give you guys stuff to do these barbecues. You can come and get 2 liters and come and get whatever, or we could have maybe a realtor sponsor the pizza for one of the streets or something like that, right? So we could just again, I think anytime you either make something easier, then it's going to become more likely to happen. And if you just create this culture of you get to know your neighbors. So I love the idea of the big twice a year, and then maybe making it easier for people to do minis in their own street and neighborhoods,
And the timing is perfect because with COVID, as soon as it's gone, everybody's going to want to be like, I need to be with people. So we have a welcome mat to have that happen.
Any other ideas for things that you think would be really valuable? I mean, let me ask my realtors, do you guys probably, or you might give something to your clients when they move into the neighborhood. Is there anything that you give that you think would be valuable for everybody to get? You're muted, Lisa.
That I knew that. I didn't know that. I usually give things like blankets, bubbly, and tea lights. So that's probably a little bit too big for a welcome basket.
Gotcha.
I also do gift my buyer clients 5 hours with my handyman.
Oh, that's interesting. Well, I think that would be, I mean, think that the Jan sort of provider list would be great. I mean, that's something, I think that somebody mentioned that a couple days ago on the, at Village Hardware, they maybe have a binder or something like that. Larry, do you know anything about that? They have a binder where you can go in there and like, you know, discover people. Somebody recommended that on Nextdoor in response to the Welcome Wagon. But I love the idea, and maybe the realtors and Larry, you guys could like sort of recommend people, but I love the idea of saying, here are especially neighbors, right? Like here are people that live in the neighborhood that can help you with specific things, and maybe not just a list. Maybe it's, you know, a profile of those people with their picture. And I've always been a fan of the notion of like, what if they even did like a little video explaining, you know, here's how to change your filter on your HVAC, right? Or here's how to change your smoke alarms, or something where they're giving some value and people are meeting them. Because I think that it's much easier to connect with somebody that you've already met than to connect with somebody that you haven't met, you know? That's just my idea. Any other ideas about things that would make it a real valuable resource to connect with? And then we can just talk about how to get it in front of people. Okay, so, what do we got there, Larry?
I did this a few years ago for the elementary school. And I made them up, and they're magnets, and it's the attendance line, and for the school, the cafeteria, the SAC number and stuff like that. And it was just a giveaway. And so then this was the refrigerator magnet for each school. So depending upon, and then I put my tiny logo on it with a phone number. So it wasn't a zero opportunity for me, but it was a giveaway to the school. And I put them in the front office when my kids were there. I still have 400 of them, so I could go back again, I guess.
Right.
But that one was for Fort Hunt Elementary School. So depending upon what school system, what school district they're in or something like that. So rather than just a piece of paper with a list on it, a magnet that goes on the refrigerator, because we all are always looking for that phone number, you know, the kid's sick or whatever. So
no, that's a great idea. And I think the idea of us distilling down a few sort of key pieces of information, but then recognizing that the website can have, you know, if we think of just FortHuntCommunity.com, if we have on that website the, you know, where you can go there and dig around, but it's kind of curated, right? It's kind of organized, and it's very specific. I mean, taking that and putting it on a magnet, and then so that goes to distribution, right? So, you know, what you did is you gave those to Fort Hunt Elementary School, and then they put it in their welcome package for the parents.
Yeah, we did PTA or something like that. We were there, you know, or back to school night or something like that. So I mean, that was, you know, purely selfish from my point of view, but also something useful for the family. So
opening the door to everybody. Dan, you said that you guys do an email out to, or do you do an email or a mailing to the new arrivals? Let me see if Dan.
We do a mailing.
Okay.
We send the booklet to them, and that's done. We don't necessarily do it the immediate month, but we do it within a month or two of the notice being kind of recorded by the county. So we essentially gather on a monthly basis from the county a list of who the new residents are, or at least what the property changes were. And we recognize that necessarily people don't move in immediately, but they're getting something from us within a month or two of their ownership of that property. Our problem is really the rental side, and how do we, because we don't get utility bill changes, and those are really the kinds of things that would probably capture far higher percentage of folks that are coming into our area.
Can I ask you a quick question, Dan? Is that
sure
information that you could
it's
provide
public
to Fraser's group, and it wouldn't be like, oh, you can't do that?
Oh, yeah, sure. No, it's all
there's
public
your trigger
information.
then.
Yeah,
That's
it's
your
all
trigger
public
then, Fraser,
information.
where you get,
Yeah.
you know, on the first of every month, you get a report from last month of all the new residents, and then we arm our army of, you know, cake box delivery people and you know, go and send 2 or 3 people and knock on their door and put on your mask and say, we're happy that you're here. This is a, you know, and just, and make that be, you know, that, and what it's probably 20 or 30 or 40 or something like that. Is that?
You know, to be honest, I'm not the one who does it every month, so I kind of lost, but I can send something out, but I believe I think it's more than that. I think it's maybe close to 100 a month is that we're getting. Again, it doesn't capture everybody, but it captures what we have, and what we're getting has addresses and everything on it, so we don't have to do a whole lot of work. We can just print them and, you know, put a label on it and send it out. So we're looking for simplicity because it can be a lot of work. So we're just trying to keep it simple.
Well, and Dan's scope or Dan's area is larger than Fort Hunt. So maybe we'd have to look at that and
Oh
see
yeah,
how many
yeah,
of
that's
those
true.
people, right? So, but
Yeah,
I think
point.
that it would be a really cool activity to kind of crowdsource this process as well, right? Because if my realtor's out there, I mean, you know, if you drive around Fort Hunt, you see a sign. Well, if that sign is if it goes down, right? I mean, like the transaction, Lisa and Martha and Tracy and Margaret, y'all know every transaction that happens in Fort Hunt, right? So from a buyer perspective, we know. We probably also know if they're renting it with an agent, you know that. But the other thought is that, you know, if we can reach out through like Nextdoor, the neighbors in every neighborhood know when somebody's moved in. They just might not do anything about it, right? So it would be really, I mean, if all we did was say, if we said, listen, here is your opportunity to let us know about a new neighbor. And if you let us know about this new neighbor, we'll share this thing. I got to believe that we could cover officially most of the people who move in. And then it comes down to more broadly letting people know about it. So one of the questions would be, forget about new neighbors. What if we were just trying to get things in front of neighbors, like just this information in front of neighbors? I think we could probably go to most of our businesses, our brick and mortar businesses, and ask them to put something up in their stores. I mean, if we wanted to have them put up a, you know, check out the Fort Hunt Welcome Wagon at this website, then assuming that they're listed on it, they're probably okay with doing that. Then we have our schools, and I mean, like Larry, I love what you did. I mean, if we have like we did this Fort Hunt parent guide a couple of years ago, and we distributed it at, you know, Sandburg and Westbo and through the PTA and everything like that. You know, it went out and it was about a 12-page manual that we gave out to different, all the different schools. I mean, the idea of creating something like that, like a booklet, like what Dan's talking about, and making that available would be great. And I don't see any reason that they wouldn't do it. I mean, it's always a pain dealing with the schools to do anything, but some would, some won't. But are there other, just from your selfish perspectives, who would you like to be sharing the whatever it is? Maybe it's just a booklet right now that lets people know about the Welcome Wagon or the resource. Who would be kind of a home run for us if they could get behind this and share it?
Well, I think that's kind of a tricky question, especially when it comes to kind of like the realtors, because they're the ones that have just brought the person in, so they don't want to have a box with a bunch of new realtors in it. I don't think, you know. So it would be, how do the realtors get their name to the next person that wants to put their house on the market or come into the market? So that's kind of a tricky thing for, you know, realtors are looking to be involved and be out there, but they really don't want their competition's name in a box that's going to, I mean, that's just something I'm thinking. So,
but Larry, I mean, one of the, I mean, like somebody who just moved into the area is probably to some extent, the least interesting to a realtor, right? But one of the things that we can do with our realtors is, you know, and we've done this with Tracy and Lisa already. I mean, Tracy is kind of a booster for Stratford Landing, and Lisa is kind of a booster for Waynewood. So, you know, like, I guess, Tracy, if you're thinking about, forget about new people for a second, but just sharing this community information, because as I said, you could be here for 5 years and you could still benefit from all this connection stuff. Tracy, if you were trying to get things to the neighbors in Stratford Landing, who would be your kind of gateway to those neighbors, other than doing a mailing, which would be expensive? Who are the institutions that if they wanted to share something, it would get shared?
I guess I'm not too sure what you're getting at. I mean, I like to, you know, give people just information booklets of everything in the area. There's so many people around here who probably don't know this exists, or the activities that are going on. So I don't really know who you mean, like, to stand behind getting information out.
I guess what I'm thinking, like in Holland Hall, we got the Civic Association, but it's not like the Civic Association is magical, right? They have some emails, whatever. I'm just thinking about, if you think about between the churches, the Civic Association, the schools, you probably get some good cross-section of the neighbors if you wanted to get a message out, or if you wanted to make them aware of a community resource. I'm just trying to think about, and then I think about the businesses, right? I mean, if you go over to Hunan Manor, if you go to Village Hardware, if you go to Variety Store, there's a non-zero chance, if we had all of those stores putting something up, there's a non-zero chance that a lot of people would become aware of something. I mean, fundamentally, all we're talking about is how do we get the neighbors plugged in to these resources that we're trying to create and make available to the neighbors, because that's what Jan's interested in, right? I mean, that's what, you know, the Child's Place is interested in. They're just saying, how can we get in front of neighbors, whether those are new neighbors or old neighbors? I feel like we have a reasonable good plan for if we're trying to get in front of those 40 or 50 people that are moving into the neighborhood. I think we could cobble that together with our realtors and with maybe some next door volunteers. But I'm thinking about the other 8,000 people that live in the neighborhood. If we want to make them aware of the block party, if we want to make them aware of the scavenger hunt or whatever, or just the resource directory, if we want to make them aware of people like you, Larry, what is there a way other than, you know, mailing that we can put things in front? I mean, I think about the civic associations and their block captains when they're distributing the newsletter. Like, I don't think there's any real reason that we couldn't find block captains in the different neighborhoods and say, you know, would you be willing to share this with the people in your neighborhood?
So I'm going to just interrupt you real quick, Fraser, because I think we're talking about two different things here. We're talking about a new neighbor welcome package, which is a whole subject on itself, and then you're introducing, let's do something for everybody in the entire area, which is a whole nother thing. I think
I'm conflating the two.
And I think, I mean, I might be wrong, but I think that concentrate on one thing, get it set and done, and then open up for another thing. But I really, you know, I like the idea of the welcome. I like the idea of, you know, 30 or 40 of these boxes. I like the idea of finding people to sponsor. I like the idea of putting a coupon from every single restaurant up and down Fort Hunt Road. There's not a single restaurant, especially right now, that wouldn't give a $20 off or 15% off or something like that. Then, you know, a 2 or 3 person committee, maybe it's the realtor, you know, I sort of did like the realtor centric. So you got a realtor that's kind of the bomb here. You got a realtor that's the bomb there. Have them and then 1 or 2 other people from this committee walk up, knock on the door and say, we're happy that you're here. We hope that you love being here. We love being here. And here's some restaurant coupons. There's a cake coupon for the wonderful pastry shop over there. And, Prima's, maybe even a liquor store coupon if you can find a way to get that. But for the purposes of where we're at right now with this phone call and this email and the 6 minutes that I have left to be here, I feel like the welcome mat or the welcome wagon or the welcome box or the, whatever it is, really focus on that. Let's make something really kick ass and then expand from that. Once you have kind of the pieces that go into that, expand that to now I want to give it to more people.
No, all right. That's fair. So I think that Lisa and Tracy and Margaret and Martha, I mean, in terms of breaking down the neighborhood, what would be the obstacles to kind of having y'all sort of not babysit, but like adopt your neighborhood and saying that, you obviously know the people you're bringing. And then we could put together based on some of the information Dan is willing to share, or that maybe you already know, right? I mean, you probably know everybody who's moving into your farm area. Would that be a very simple way to handle delivery or some version of delivery, whether it's you delivering it or whether it's just, if we say, okay, there's 8 with in Waynewood and there's 6 in Stratford Landing. I mean,
I think it's a little bit complicated. I'm always happy to sponsor and help our local businesses, which absolutely are every bit as important as our nonprofits. But I think there's a kind of a weird line here where if Tracy was the realtor and her folks move in and Lisa Seward stops by with a welcome package. Look at Tracy's face. She's like, that would be weird.
Yeah. You would have to definitely do it with intention. I mean, there's not a rule. You can't say that this is the 100% rule. You would have to, each address would have to be vetted to make sure that we're doing right by the people.
I'm just saying, if it's not my client or if another realtor stopped by to visit my clients on the day they moved in, I would be like, ugh.
Well, yeah, especially if they're cards in the box, right?
Well,
I agree. I think
but let's just say fundamentally, it's not, Lisa doesn't have to drop it off and Tracy doesn't have to drop it off unless it's their client. Then you could volunteer to drop it off because you're already doing it anyway. But we know we can make a list of the people that are moving in, and that can be a Fort Hunt community box. The only question is, and we could have, I mean, truthfully, Larry, we could probably get any of our other businesses to be the deliverer of that box. I mean, you're talking about a 5-minute drop off. It doesn't have to be a realtor to drop it off.
I'll volunteer to deliver all the boxes.
Okay, good job, Martha.
You can count on me.
Yeah.
I'll be there.
So, but I guess what I'm saying is that what Tracy and Lisa and Martha and Margaret can certainly do is to keep us informed, keep me informed of the people, right? Obviously, your people, you can deliver it, but for everybody else, we can coordinate the delivery in some mechanism. And I think
what might make sense though is just to have whatever realtor it is, if somebody gives a coupon and we sponsor a $10, $15, $20 gift card to a local restaurant and it's brought to you by Tracy or Lisa or Martha or Margaret. Did I leave anyone out? Any realtors out? That may make more sense.
Well, and
we all work very well together, and I think we all subscribe to the theory of abundance, that there's more than enough work for anybody. But yeah, just in terms of knocking on someone's door that just moved in after Tracy represented them in the purchase, that would just be awkward to me.
Well, and honestly, I go with that, which is there's no real value other than, I mean, why even if you were in the mood to poach, why are you going to poach somebody who just moved into the house? It's the worst person to poach. So I don't think we have to worry about that so much. Because
hey, Fraser, I got 1 minute and I got to go. So I got another appointment.
Let me, I think we have I think there's some good stuff here. Does anybody have parting thoughts, something that you haven't said, a question that you think should be resolved? and I can follow up afterwards.
Well,
No, I
I'm more than
love that.
happy to gather the information and share the sources of data and all that. So I'll get that back to you all from
Yeah,
somebody
that
in
would be
my
good
office.
just to see a scope of what we're talking about, Dan. That'd be great.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thanks, Dan, and thanks for all you do for our community.
Nice to meet
I love
you.
what I do. Thank you for giving me the opportunity.
All right. Anybody else have a question or a thought? Jan, from your perspective, obviously, I mean, do you, there's not a huge amount of value to you to have a new, somebody who's new to the neighborhood, right?
It just depends on the demographic. It's probably not likely that it's people who might be potential members. So I'm more interested in kind of figuring out how to get information to existing.
Yep.
So just real quick on Jan's point,
Yeah.
I have somebody who lives in Waynewood whose mother lives on Bainbridge, and they brought the mother from far away. So I think that that's where you would benefit is in the broader scope where we're getting information out to everybody, or the new resident that comes in. They're coming here, but they're wondering, is this a good place to bring their parents to, or something like that. So it really is. It really does have. It will play well for you to be in front of the new residents. The people that I'm working with, he didn't live here forever, but now he lives here and he's got 4 kids and he'll never leave. And he brought his mom and his dad here and stuff like that. So that's where I think it would totally help.
And what I think we're really accomplishing here is we're connecting the community, right? We're building a sense of community that then radiates out from it. So this is just like Larry was saying, this is one slice of the pie that might bring in a lot of businesses and a lot of organizations, and they announce themselves. They share about themselves, but then we're talking about, okay, if we want to have real connection, then that means what are we going to do in October? What are we going to do in June? What are we going to do in July? How do we stay connected with the civic associations? All of the civic associations want to get in front of those new members, those new neighbors, but they're also representing hundreds potentially of other neighbors who can help promote and amplify the other things that we're doing. So all we're really doing here is putting a brick in the wall, I feel like, in a good way.
Yeah.
I do have one question. I'm sorry.
Thanks for being, I appreciate being part of the conversation and listening. And it doesn't hurt to be part of this. I agree. We're a pillar of the community like all of you all. So happy to keep at the conversation. And this was kind of like throwing a lot of spaghetti on the wall, and that's good. That's part of brainstorming. So I appreciate being part of the discussion. Happy to keep going with it too. But I got to jump too. I've got
Okay.
I'm going to ask Fraser one quick question, and then I got an appointment I got to get to.
Bye, Kathy. Thanks,
Jan.
Lisa. Nice to see you all.
Do you have an official organization, Fraser? Do you have an LLC or a corporation or something that says like Mount Vernon at Home is an organization? And can we make an LLC that says that, you know, Fort Hunt Masters or whatever, Fort Hunt Foxes, Fort Hunt Leisureleys, whatever it is, but make an organization.
The names you just threw out were the worst names I've ever heard in my life.
I had to get rid of the bad ones so that then we can find the good one. That's the way that works. But I think Fraser, one of the things that I've talked to you about a lot over the years is have an organization or have something that we can all point to and say, come and join us. This is, maybe it's not brick and mortar, but it's actually a physical something. It's not just this Fraser like cloud of wonderfulness. It actually is something. And then I think that we can go to these businesses and start to get a bunch of their coupons and stuff like that from them.
Okay. So the short answer is no. The long answer or the response would be, yeah, that seems, I mean, it certainly seems reasonable. I mean, we could take Fort Hunt Community and just make it an official, organization or something like that. I think that's probably for what we're doing here, the Fort Hunt Community Business Association is probably the most natural entity if we wanted to have an entity.
So then just real quick, I'm going to interrupt you because I want you to have an entity so then you can go to the Waynewood Civic Association and say, the Fort Hunt business community would like to present at your next civic association, not just Fraser and Larry and Tracy. You know, we are an organization, and then you go and you present at all of the organizations, and then you say, we would like you to join our organization. We would like you as a civic association to be a member. And then that's where you start growing. But I think now I'm more adamant than before. I think to have an organization that you can present to people will really help us get everybody behind us, or a lot easier to get people behind us.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I can figure out what we would need to do in terms of that. That would be fine. I think that the Fort Hunt Community Business Association exists on paper or exists in digital world. But if we need to have more of a legal entity, then that is what it is for sure. So I think coming out of here, I think I can distill down the sort of initial plan in terms of, I think that there are two pieces. One is aggregating and attracting the stuff, whether that's information or coupons or what have you. And then there's the distribution of the stuff. If we assume for the sake of argument that we can identify people to distribute either through Dan's list or through the realtor's list or through recommendations from neighbors, then I think that that especially digital, right? The digital element is relatively easy. When we turn it into a package, then we just have to get some partners who are willing to kind of hoof it over. And then, you know, Kathy, you and I can chat more about what to do next, right? How to build, how to onboard the neighbors into something that is worthwhile, the new neighbors into something that's worthwhile, and the old neighbors into something that's worthwhile. Any final questions or thoughts?
Fraser, I know, can you hear me?
Is that Margaret?
Yes.
Yes,
Oh,
it
okay.
is.
Hey, Margaret.
Yeah, finally I got things, I think, working here. I don't know if Dan's got a quicker pass to that information, but normally we don't see those tax records changing for several months. So maybe he does have a quicker.
I don't think he does, Margaret. I think that he's just not on any kind of real time frame. I honestly think that would be valuable, maybe as catch-up work, but I think that there's no reason not to reach out to any agent who's listing a property and to say, there is this thing. Let us know when you have a new client and we'll deliver this thing. The thing there's no real need or value in having that be a cornucopia of agent information, right?
Right.
What it really is more valuable for that to be about the restaurants and about the providers and about the neighborhood than it is about the neighbor agents. But the agents who are invested, who aren't just doing a listing here and leaving, the agents who are invested will show up on the site and in the activities. Like Tracy, you know, if somebody moves into Stratford Landing, part of your and my job is to get them to discover that you're a supporter of things in Stratford Landing, right? So that doesn't have to be part of the welcome basket. That can be part of what Kathy and I are talking about in terms of the ecosystem of community that occurs after the fact. So I feel like we can, I mean, you know, between the agents that are part of this group, I think just saying, you know, what listings do we have right now in Fort Hunt? I mean, I can reach out to all the people who are listing agents and just let them know that there's this welcome basket that we're ready to deliver. Just let us know, you know, let us know when the person closes. Let us know when the person settles.
Problem is, Fraser, there's 28 realtors that are, you know, Fort Hunt centric, but then there's 280 that are the one-offs, and their houses are, you know, on the market. I mean, you drive through, and I drive through the neighborhood a lot. So there has to be a tighter mechanism than just relying on agents who are already super busy to reach out to Fraser and say, hey, buddy, I got one for you. There has to be more of a concrete mechanism to make that happen. And if it's 2 months late, which while that's not ideal, at least it's 2 months late and you have a list and you work from that list.
Well, let me ask you this, because I think I hear what you're saying, but I don't know that we necessarily have to rely. First off, I contact agents every day, so I don't care about contacting agents. But the second piece would be, we don't need to rely on the agent. I mean, Margaret, if we wanted to have a listing a month, a report every month of all the properties that closed. I mean, is the closing date public information?
Well, if it's in the MLS, then every agent can see it.
All right. So fundamentally,
yes, I could easily put together a list of Holland Hall Village.
Yeah. So fundamentally, if I said we want to know any property that has closed in these zip codes this month, and then we contact them the next month, that it may not be public information, but it's easy information to access.
Yeah.
So and then what we wouldn't have though, maybe Larry, is we might not have their name, but we would have the address, right? And so if we followed, unless they're doing a buyback or a rent back or something like that, within a month there's probably gonna be a new neighbor there, you know.
So I'll talk to you more about kind of the organization that I have, and I can do that with you offline, because I think that that's important, because once you have an organization, then you can buy supplies for it. You can have a table set up, and you can have a storage place, and then you can send a person to it. We can pay a teenager to put it together. I mean, you can ask for sponsorships and subscriptions and use that money in the way that you want, and you can build then this whatever it is. And that's why it's still, I always call it the whatever it is, the Fraser whatever it is. And so if we can make it not be just that, but have a concrete something, I think then we can blitz all of this stuff, and we can use Jan's. Some of the people that are in Jan's, home, maybe they want to stuff envelopes, maybe they want to have volunteer stuff to do, and they can have stuff dropped at their house. So that's what I'm saying. Let's get an organization, and then we can all become officers and just be as cool as Fraser. I got to go. I got an appointment. It was nice to see you guys. Talk to you later.
Thanks, Larry. See you.
All right.
I think we could call it the welcome wiggle, and the box could be the wiggle, whatever, then it can be the wiggle.
All right. Well, I think this has been very good. Thank you for everybody for sharing. Kathy, can you hold tight real quick for a couple minutes?
And I have to.
But everybody else, thank you so much. And I'll share, I'll sort of write up or think about this and share it out. Okay.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.